Welcome into the Tri-Oval office. And I think it's an episode I've been looking forward to. Grant, I know, has been looking forward to. This is
Definitely.
our preview of all of the mid-pack teams. No other news to talk about, just pure predictions and previews. How are you doing today, Grant?
I'm good. Been looking forward to this one since we had to preview the super teams last time, which was met with a lot of I agrees. I think we'll have some discrepancies of opinions today, so should be good.
Yeah, I mean, we really didn't have much at all to talk about with the super teams, but you have to do it. You have
Yeah.
to talk about the big three and, Joey Logano's hair, or lack thereof. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, what hair?
But I think we get to talk about our personal favorite teams today. We all kind of root for several different of these teams and drivers, want them to do well,
Hmm.
and we actually get to talk about them. We're going to start off with the Chevy camp, not probably where you expect. We're going to start off with the RCR. So,
Interesting.
Richard Childress Racing, they've won two races over the last few years, so one each by the
Hmm.
same driver in the same fashion, near identical, except for some terrorism in the middle there, by Austin Dillon. Win and you're in is gone, so that will not help them at all this next year. But so the three car and the eight car, Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch, we have to kind of see how they adapt to this new system. And do they have any raw pace to speak of at all? I think it's going to be the real question here.
Yeah. Well, I'll lead us off, and I guess we can go in numerical order. We'll start with the three car. Um, the win you're in is pretty losing. That's almost devastating for them because in terms of raw pace, there is none. I think
In
my
ter-
expectations are
in terms of raw pace, we have no raw pace.
yeah, exactly. In terms of raw pace, there is literally none to speak of. With all due respect, compared to the other Cup guys, I mean, they just RCR. I don't think they've had the speed. I don't think they've had the car. I mean, I just my expectations are for him to run. I mean, he'll finish in the 20s in points somewhere, and just kind of maybe he'll win Richmond again, and it will matter less for the end of the season tournament, playoff, whatever format. It doesn't matter anymore. Like it doesn't matter what it is because I don't think he's going to make it. So there's really not much else to say about him other than expectations aren't that high.
Austin Dillon, I don't think he'll be kind of anywhere near that top 16. I
Mm-mm.
do think, though, this is going to be an interesting year. I would not be shocked if this is Austin Dillon's last season in a cup car full time. If he's just going to step aside, he's going to take over the business side for Richard Childress Racing. He seems to be very gifted at that side.
Yeah.
Some of the things that have come out with him and Ty, for that matter, helping out their granddad, running the business, and and he's had a very successful Cup career considering. I mean, he's won several races. He has made the playoffs or chase more often than not. At the end of the day, and I mean, at the end of the day, that's a very good career to hang your hat on as you move towards the business side of things. Um, I don't expect much out of Austin, except for maybe a win at Richmond, because
Yeah.
that seems to
It's about
be.
all you can pencil him in for.
And you can, we're just going to look up real quick um, if there are any odds at all for the Richmond race.
I was about to say you can pencil him in for the Richmond race, but I mean you're dang near close to being able to use a pin. Like
I was gonna say he's
there's
been
really
so good at Richmond and
yeah.
nowhere else. It is kind of crazy because the eight doesn't have that speed at Richmond either. It's just that Austin Dillon knows Richmond better than anyone else in the field, apparently.
Either that or granddad's making sure that he's not sharing that data. One of the two.
Exactly. So I think that's all you can say about Austin Dillon. He's a Richmond merchant. I think he'll be competitive on the super speedways, but
Yeah,
he's just not fast enough week to week that even 2 to 3 wins probably isn't enough to put him in the top 16. I wish him all. I wish him well, but I just don't think he has it this year.
I agree. So moving on to the eight. What are your opinions on Kyle Busch's season? I know this one is a pretty hotly contested. What's going to happen at the end of the year and that kind of stuff. But what's your expectation for the actual racing side?
Well, something we didn't mention yet is Chevy has a brand new body. We've seen it on track a lot now with the North Wilkesboro testing this week.
Yep.
Seen a
You can
lot going.
almost tell it's new. It's
You have to get close to it, and then you start to see all these angled panels and everything that's different. It's like, oh, okay, so you learned that in the wind tunnel, then that makes you half of a tenth of a second better.
which
Um,
matters. It matters.
it matters at the end of the day. So, but I'm really curious because that is something. It's not that new of a vehicle. It's not that
No.
new of a car, but
Yeah.
it does seem to be cooked in the best possible way. Like it's like the scene from Ratatouille where you got to get every little thing correct.
Yep.
That is what it seems like the engineers at Chevy have done. It's just like we had a really good recipe and we added a little bit of pepper to it.
That's right.
So we move on to Kyle Busch, and it's been a really bad 2 seasons for Kyle Busch at RCR. He's just, even when he has had some speed, he can't seem to bring it home. Something goes wrong.
Yeah.
Um, like he blows a tire. He wrecks at Indianapolis. I think this was 2 years ago, or like I can't remember, but it's that famous clip. You have the guys in the booth of like, "This is a really good run for Kyle Busch." Oh, as he hits the wall, um, and that's really summed up his time at RCR for the most part. He does have a new crew chief this year, so elevating from Junior Motorsports, Jim Pullman will be taking over on top of the pit box, and he's had a lot of success with Justin Allgaier down in the O'Reilly ranks or Xfinity back when he was down there. But I don't necessarily know how much that helps. I do think getting someone else in Kyle's ear can only help him. Because, I
Yeah.
mean, at this point, what do you have to lose? Nothing else is going right. And then just trying to be more consistent, especially during that summer stretch. Like the
Hmm.
last 2 seasons, he's just lost so much momentum in the middle of the dog days. And then he didn't even make a run at the end of last season. Like at least 2 seasons ago, he was really competitive for 2 to 3 races in a row and just missed out on getting a win.
Yeah.
But last season, it just did not work in the slightest. So
Yeah.
I think it comes down to where is Kyle Busch's head at? Is he thinking this is just a lost season because of what he's having to drive? Or is he locked in? He's ready to go. Is he going to look at like, well, Daytona 500, I've never won it. It's the only thing I've never won. And if we know anything about RCR and Chevy as a whole, they are going to give their drivers a chance to win on the super speedways every single week.
Yep.
And Kyle Busch, if he could just avoid disaster at the end of the 500, I think we'll be right there. I don't know if we're going to have a real test though until they get to Phoenix and Vegas, because we do start the season with Daytona, Atlanta, and Coda. And I don't think it's. Would you be shocked if Kyle Busch wins any of those 3 races to start the year?
No, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, I forget how well he ran at Coda last year. Like you think of the first two, and you're like, he's a threat there, and then you forget. I mean, he. I dare I say he should have won at Coda. Like he
He
dominated
dominated
most of
that
that
race.
race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until the tires just gave up, and he was driving just the heck out of that car down the stretch. It just could not keep Christopher Bell behind him, which is
Yeah.
not anything to be ashamed of either. So it's just new data. I think that he'll run pretty well all 3 races. If he is terrible, then we might start to look into like, this might be a problem. But if he's competitive those 3 races, that's good. But I don't know if that teaches us anything because of just how abnormal the start to the season is.
I'm anticipating a little bit of. I don't know what your like overall expectations are, but I'm anticipating a little bit of a bounce back. To be honest, I expect him to be on the fringe of making the chase, maybe getting a win. I think having a new crew chief in his ear does help. Like you said, I also think that how you said he like lost focus down the end or towards the middle of the summer and stuff like that. I think the last format was conducive to that, to where it's like, oh, I can just kind of like if I don't have it today, I can just kind of pack it up and we'll just try next week. We'll try and go for a win. It felt like maybe that was the mentality, and then he just kept packing it up and like saying, "We'll try it next. We'll win next week," and then at the end of the season, you're out of time. So with the new format, you don't really have a choice. Like you have to stay locked in, otherwise, I mean, you're just gonna free fall. So that I expect him. I expect a little bit of a bounce back. I mean, it's KFB. I mean,
Exactly.
he's going to be locked in. Like he's not going to show up and halfway do it. So I expect to bounce back.
Rowdy, I think his floor is another ceiling like we had, or season like we had last year. Just a few good runs, nothing seems to go right, and he's going to be a threat on certain weeks, and he's just going to come out of nowhere because that's the driver he is. But I don't see how it can get worse than last season.
Mm-mm.
I think last season was the floor ceiling. He could be squarely in the top 16, rattle off a few wins. My expectation for him is he will improve from last season, but I don't know how much. I do think, though, my prediction is he will win a race. I don't know
Yeah.
where, and I don't know if it's going to be enough to vault him into the top 16. Like, he can't be spinning as much as he did last year. He can't be to call for the whole Ricky Spinhouse thing, and then it come back to bite him.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny, but he can't have a season like that again.
No.
Um, Even if he does win, it won't help him under the new format. So, moving on from RCR to the other Chevy team, or at least Chevy Midpack team running ECR engines. We're going to go Trackhouse, and they have a little bit of a new look this year. So Pitbull left right before the 500 last year, and their original driver, Daniel Suarez, is taking over the 7 car at Spire. So that leaves young hotshot Connor Zilisch to be driving around the 88, and SVG shifts numbers to his iconic 97. Let's just start off with who's been there the longest. The number 1 car, Ross Chastain, the Mellow Man.
My expectations for Ross are pretty high. I mean, I've got some pretty high expectations for him this year. I think the format's conducive to him being able to excel and succeed. Um, I really expect my expectations are at least one win, multiple wins probably up there, and then I see if we're going floor, ceiling, and expectation, I'd say floor. I mean, he could be on the outside looking in 17th, 18th, 19th in points. That's not my expectation. I think the ceiling, I mean, he could be pushing the top 5 in points. Is my ceiling. And then my expectation is I could see him sitting right there in that 7 to 10 range is kind of where I expect him to sit most of the year with a chance to really kind of turn it on at the end and make a run.
Yes, I think I don't know if I necessarily agree. I don't see a world where Chastain um, misses the chase. Just because if you look back, I mean, he would have made it every year of it since he's been at Trackhouse
Yeah.
under this system. He has been the only problem I have is that with Trackhouse is the raw speed has just not been there.
Yeah.
Um, Except for on the road courses with SVG, which I don't know if it's raw speed or if SVG could take the 30th
Just raw
best
talent,
car
what it is.
and win on a road course every week. So
Yeah.
Chastain, I mean, outside of the 600 last year, he didn't really show much. Um, but I do know with Ross Chastain that his bread and butter is going to be that mile and a half intermediate, and then those other tracks that kind of resemble it. So like a Richmond, um, even something like a New Hampshire or a Dover, which Dover now is the All Star race, so it doesn't really matter how you run there.
Yeah.
But um, something like a Michigan, maybe
Yeah.
he's going to be very competitive on those tracks, and they make up a majority of the schedule. And if you look at what the last 10 races are, what the chase is, it's a lot of those style tracks. He's going to be competitive at something like the Roval. He's going to be able to drive on plate tracks, so he'll be fine at Talladega. If he makes the dance and he's somewhat competitive through the season, if he finishes like say 10th in points,
Hmm.
and he's has starts. I think that's a 60-point deficit to the leader. He could win enough. He could win 3 races in that final stretch, and that may be enough to win from 10th place.
Yeah.
So I think his ceiling he could walk away from this with a championship. He could walk away hoisting the trophy, and that's the last thing we see from this season at Homestead, which would be kind of fun for him to win a championship in his home state.
Yeah, that would be, man, that would be something. Um, that's yeah. I don't I don't know if I can quite get there to seeing him hoist the trophy. I would love it. Trust me, I would absolutely love that. I love Ross, but I mean, I don't know. I think it'd take a pretty. I think it'd take a Linsanity run, but I guess I could. I guess I could see it. There's a chance, but
I was gonna say,
um,
I think he has more of a chance to win it all in this format than he does in the chase or the playoff format that we just were in. Like he was never going to have the raw speed in the last race of some of the super teams that had 3 weeks to prepare.
yeah,
Versus now, I mean, over 10 races, that window kind of opens up. He could be the best driver for 10 races.
that's
Um,
true.
I think, and I think we're gonna talk about this a lot with different guys we mentioned today. Of
Yeah, the
here's
tops
a
of each of these teams, you can probably make the same exact pitch right there.
especially like the 3 teams that kind of came into the sport together and have grown together and have each had one really good season. The 2311 Trackhouse RCR of the world, or not RCR, RFKs of the
Yeah,
world. I think at the very top they could do it. And of those teams, if I asked you to rank those drivers, I think we would both put Ross Chastain as the two in terms of just pure raw talent, maybe three. If you
maybe. Yeah, maybe one. I don't know, man.
so, I think that Ross, I don't see a world where he misses the championship unless Trackhouse falls apart.
Yeah,
Which I mean, crazier things have happened over the last few years, mostly
yeah.
because of Ross Chastain.
Oh yeah,
Moving on though, we'll stick with seniority. SVG. There's been a lot of talk about SVG. We talked at length about SVG once they announced this format, and
we
I
did.
don't see it as big of a deal as a lot of other people do. He would have made the playoffs last year, and he was running. I mean, it took him a solid 15 weeks to learn how to not be the worst car on ovals,
Yeah,
and he won 4 races in the regular season, 5 total, because there are so many road courses on the schedule.
yeah,
Coda feels like a lock for SVG because we saw exactly what happened the last time someone beat him at a road course is he locked in the sim and then became basically set the track record and just
yeah.
didn't
It
look
was not.
back.
It was not fun.
No no one was within 30 seconds of him on a long run. And I kind of assume that's what Coda is going to be. I don't know if he'll be as dominant on the road courses this year, but he's going to make up for it in being just, I mean, okay on the ovals. And that's all he has to do. If he wins several road course races and he stops DNFing and can run, if he can have a 24th average finish on the ovals, especially coming back to him now for a third, a second, and sometimes even third time. I think he's going to be fine. Unfortunately, I do not think he has the same ceiling as a Ross Chastain. I think he has a much lower floor, much lower ceiling than his teammate.
I agree in a sense for sure. Um, I think everyone's knee jerk reaction initially when this came out was, oh, SVG, like he was brought in, as a ringer to win one kind of race, and now there's no winning you're in. But then, like you said, you kind of forget how many there are. But also to that same aspect, you kind of forget that, I mean, we're getting another year of these guys. I mean, some of these young guys are getting better on the road courses. You've got your guys like your Allmendingers and like you guys that are always going to be good. You bring in Connor Zilisch. I mean, there's going to be a lot of competition. Like, would I be surprised if he drops two to those guys? Like, to remember how fast McDowell was until his car exploded at Chicago? Like, I wouldn't be even shocked if he did. And I'm just my expectations are the floor is missing the playoffs entirely, 20th something in points, drops a couple road courses, doesn't improve on the ovals. There's a world where that happens.
Exactly. I
Um,
mean, you have to
it's
remember this is a guy who is inherently different than everyone else in the garage. So he sometimes that gets you. success like it did last year. Just win a lot of races and your sponsors are happy and it brings a lot of attention to your team, or it blows up in your face, which it did a lot on the ovals
Oh
last
yeah.
year. So there is a world where he just does not improve in relation to the field and he loses some of his edge. Because in reality, I mean, this just means we talked about it a little bit. The format means that one win means or loses its power, but multiple wins means
It just
or it
means
matters
so
so much more.
yeah.
And it's kind of crazy. Just it speaks to SVG's talent that we're like, yeah, it would be kind of a bad year if he only wins 3 of the road courses or 4 of the road courses.
Yeah.
So I think that you're correct. I do think he's gonna only win 3 or 4 of the road courses. I think he's gonna get got somewhere.
Yeah.
Not in San Diego though. San Diego, I think is we can go ahead and just put that in pin. SVG gap 20 seconds.
Just because
Other
it's
than
new
that,
for
it's a
everybody.
new one.
Yeah.
So, but everywhere else, it's another shot at him.
Yep.
And I think someone's going to get him, whether that's his teammate that we're about to talk about, whether that's someone like Christopher Bell or Kyle Larson, who was able to, they were able to run with him at times last year, or McDowell, like we said, if his car
Yeah.
didn't blow up in Chicago, he was good.
He would have won that race.
Ty
Yeah.
Gibbs was just as good at him at Mexico City until the pit stops kind of fell in a wrong order. The caution came at the worst time for him.
Yeah.
So he is able to be beaten. It is,
Definitely.
but it does take a superhuman feat
Yeah, you have
for
to really
any of
put
these
together
guys
a
to get him.
you gotta put together a perfect day, and I just looked it up just to confirm. I mean, it's not like he's young. I mean, relatively, he's 36, he's not like he's like a 20-year-old guy that's adapting to a new environment. Like he's got his ways of racing that he's done for his whole life. And I mean, it's hard to change those, I'm sure. Like I'm sure it's hard to have to readjust and make those. And I mean, I think it really wasn't even, he ran, I think 20th on average roughly on the intermediates and the super speedways. It was the short tracks where I think he had a 30th average finish, to where it's like, I mean, if he just cleans up the short tracks, and this gets me to his ceiling. I mean, if he cleans up the short tracks and runs 20th like he does there, like you said, and he's running 20th at all the other ones, and he doesn't drop a road course here or there, I mean, he may end up in the top 12 in points. And I don't think he has a shot in the, I mean, if unless we had 10 Rovals, then he'd have a shot. But
I
I don't
think
think he's
I
got
think
much
we
of a
would have
shot
to have some
there.
major scheduling um, redistribution, and I think this is a topic that we can have on a day where we're not really building up for the season
Yeah.
of what the chase schedule should look like and what tracks should be on it.
Yeah.
But as long as there's he's just not going to have he can't go and for a 3 race stint and bide his time to get to the roval where he can win and then
Yeah.
suddenly he's in
You
the
got to come out guns blazing. You have no
yeah
choice.
and like even if he improves on the ovals if he's finishing top 20 top 15 that's not going to get it done in the
Yeah.
chase because he is driving against the best of the best every week and you have to assume he's going to be in a points deficit to
Yeah.
start. So he's going to have to not only be as good as someone like a Chase Elliott or a Kyle Larson on the ovals, he's going to have to be better. And I
Yeah.
just don't see a world where that happens for 9 races in a row.
No chance.
So absolutely love him. I think he's fascinating though going into
Yeah.
this. Um, and speaking of fascinating, finally up in the big leagues, Connor Zilisch, only 19 years old, and I don't remember a prospect in at least recent years having this much kind of wonder about him, like the
Mhm.
allure that Connor Zilisch has now that he's full time in the Cup Series.
I agree. I'm also equally intrigued. I'm curious to hear your opinions on this, just because I know a lot of people. I've seen very polarizing opinions on Zilich. From I think some people are like he's going to come in and just he's going to win multiple races like he did. Nothing's going to change. And then I think more of the camp that I fall in is I think it's going to take some seat time. I think he's going to be competitive in the. I think he's going to be competitive in the in on the road courses for sure. I think that's a given. But I do think with the new equipment that he's going to have to, I mean, he's ran a little bit of Cup. I think it's going to take some time to get adjusted, get a feel for the speed of things, and really just like get acclimated. I don't think he's going to come out guns blazing like everyone thinks he does. I think there's a chance he makes the chase, but I don't think it's that high of a chance.
I think the biggest thing for Connor is he has to bide his time, especially the first like 10 to 12 races of the season. He absolutely cannot screw himself. He
Yeah,
can't be finishing 30th, have a 30-second average finish over the first 10 weeks because that's just not going to be able to. He's not going to be able to climb his way out of it. He's
yeah,
not going to be a top six guy in the Cup Series week to week just because of his equipment. Like even Ross, who I think is one of the probably 8 best drivers in the Cup Series, is just not going to be able to. He is not able to overcome those terrible runs. So he has to be consistent. And then when the weeks he has raw speed, he has to capitalize.
yeah.
Um, and I think we're going to get some fantastic battles between
Oh
SVG
yeah,
and Zilisch. We saw them in the Xfinity car, which the Xfinity car on road courses is, I mean, it's a completely different animal than what the next gen is.
yeah,
So we'll see if this is something that he adapts to. Something that helps him is, I mean, Connor is comes from the world of like sports car racing,
hmm,
and just like SVG, I mean, the next gen is partly modeled on the Australian supercar frame, and then also it's meant to handle like a sports car. So I think that's something that really plays has allowed both of them to adapt a little bit easier compared to
yeah.
something of what like the Gen 6 would have been or the Gen 5 car tomorrow, where I think they might have struggled a little bit more. But I don't know. I think we'll kind of know by All Star Weekend what this
Definitely.
season's going to look like, and I think he's going to steadily improve the entire season.
Oh yeah, once he
But
gets some more experience, yeah, he might turn it on at the beginning of the season. And that's another thing when you said about like he doesn't need to screw himself at the beginning of the year in a sense of also just like respecting the other guys on the track. He doesn't need to be you can't be going out there doing what Hocevar did. You need to establish yourself, I feel like in the garage as a respected part of the field to a certain extent. Obviously, you got to go out there and be aggressive and want to win, but in a respectful way. Just because I don't think he doesn't have nearly the brash personality of like a Hocevar. So
well, and you have to remember too, Connor, he's not going to be in the best equipment anymore. I mean, he had arguably the fastest car in the garage
yeah,
every
I
week. I
mean,
mean, with JGR equipment last year, or not JGR, JRM,
Jim, yeah,
yeah, equipment last year. I mean, his teammates are good. Allgaier is the probably the most respected vet in the Xfinity series, and that was most weeks the only guy who could even keep up with him.
yeah,
So, but you have to remember he is going into a much harder field. This is a very good Cup Series field. I think even compared to what it was in like 2021, I think there's a lot, of, especially this mid pack, which makes it interesting, of guys that we have no clue what they can do,
yeah,
but I think they're going to be pretty good. Connor, I do not think he's going to make the playoffs or the chase. I think there's going to be a lot of frustration to start the season out, and I don't know if he'll make the top 16 just because of it. I think he's going to put himself in too big of a hole, but I think there's going to be a portion point somewhere in the middle of the season, probably let's say after Atlanta 2. So the weekend after the 4th of July.
yeah,
I think he's something's going to click and everyone's gonna kind of have that oh no moment. This might be a problem.
yeah. Here he
Maybe
is.
not
He's
this year.
arrived.
And something that this is not a Connor Zilisch thing. I really, really wish that Corey Heim was also in this field full time.
Me too.
Because could you imagine just the storyline? Even if they don't run, even if they're not in the top 10, what a rookie of the year battle between Heim and Zilisch would look like.
Be amazing.
And
Be
in pretty
amazing.
much equal equipment.
Yeah, that
Because
would be cinema.
just insane. And honestly, I would have probably taken Heim to be the rookie of the year just because I think he adapts to this car a lot better. He just because of his upbringing, he's better on the ovals Um, so we'll see. I just think it's just too high of a ceiling for him to overcome. I don't think Connor's going to win on an oval. I think maybe Watkins Glen is where he
Hmm.
gets his first win of his career. I'm probably gonna he was probably gonna be my pick at Watkins Glen this year. So, but I don't think it's gonna be enough to save him in terms of the chase. But this season is about learning and getting better and steadily improving, and not making any enemies in the garage.
That's a big key.
I think that's pretty much the expectation for Connor. And I'll let you close it out for him.
Yeah, my floor is, I mean, man, it could be low, like you said. There could be some wrecks, there could be some frustration, and mid low 20s in points and stuff, like just struggling kind of to get your groove. And I mean, I think his ceiling is, I mean, he could sneak in at the 16 spot if he just, like, maybe he wins Watkins Glen and maybe he just like steals Coronado or something somehow from SVG, or like he steals a Sonoma, something like that. That would be how I could see him sneaking in at 16. Maybe the midfield isn't as strong as we think it is, or maybe there's some more. Maybe they separate themselves, like the top guys separate, and there's kind of a gap there. So I think that is his ceiling. That's not my expectation at all. I think he'll hover in the low mid 20s in points.
I do think there is a world, and I don't think it's a very common world, but ceiling wise, where we go out and we've mentioned Daytona, Atlanta, Coda to start out the season, where he wins two out of three of those races, and everyone
It's like,
immediately
oh
goes, "Oh no, he's so
yeah,
much better than everybody else,"
yeah,
and that would be, I think, really, really, really good for NASCAR.
that'd be fun.
But then it really makes everyone look for the next 10 years of, do we have another person who just ruins the chase format for everybody
Yeah, it's
else?
like right when we change it. Dang it, Connor.
We just Jimmie Johnson reincarnated into with a 19-year-old kid. Just like he's
Hmm.
right back. He's there. Speaking of, well, we're gonna finish off with the Chevy teams and then we'll move on to the Toyotas. Spire Motorsports. This will be the last of the Chevys we talk about in the midfield. Um, wow, what an interesting team.
Very,
Um, like
very intriguing.
Daniel Suarez is in the seven. He replaces Justin Haley. That's the only move really of silly season that mattered was the Zilisch replaces Suarez. Suarez replaces Haley. That happens. And then you have McDowell and Hocevar, who publicly had some beef last year as
Oh yeah,
teammates. And McDowell is the old savvy vet, and he's trying to kind of control what amounts to real life Lightning McQueen.
yeah.
So
I
I
mean, this is definitely like this is a weird. It's a weird, but it's a cool dynamic. Like you've got like the old wily guy, like you said, and you've got a young hot shot, and then you've got basically just a journeyman at this point. He's just like a 1 year rental. So it's yeah, Spire's got themselves an interesting team, but I think should we start with the oldest on the team with McDowell and just kind of go from there?
I was going to start with Suarez because I think we're going to both have not a
Yeah, we
ton to
can
say,
probably, yeah,
and then
let's do
I
that.
think McDowell and Hocevar are infinitely more interesting than Suarez,
Yeah.
which sucks because I really like Daniel as a guy. I think he's a really fun story, um, and as a Trackhouse fan, he's obviously been one of my favorite drivers the last several seasons. But I just don't think he has the raw speed, um, and it kind of comes down to how high is his ceiling? I think his ceiling is outside of the chase. I don't see a world where he is 16th in points, um, because I don't think he has a chance to really win a road course. He's not on the level of SVG and even in even equipment. And then that's before you consider guys like Zilisch and Larson and Bell and all of the other traditional guys who have been really good on road courses. Um, and Oval's just not been great. He's a good super speedway racer, but
Yeah.
we don't really have. There's not enough super speedways to go around, and they're not near as predictable as the road courses. So I think his ceiling is somewhere between 18th and 20th in points, and his floor could be a lot lower than that. though I do think that the floor is somewhere like 26th. I don't know if he'll. Well, I guess last year he was actually in the 30s in points, so he was god awful last year for Trackhouse, which I consider to be about even equipment except for the engines.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a lot to say. I think this is a 1 year placeholder until Spire, until silly season gets really interesting this year, and Spire could put someone who they think is faster in that car.
Yeah. In an effort to be succinct, his ceiling is outside the chase. His floor is way down there, and my expectation is somewhere in the middle. Daniel is a great person, and that's all I have to say.
Something more interesting to talk about Daniel is his relationship with a Carson Hocevar, because that's another vet that you're bringing in mostly to mentor what looks to be a prodigy. Carson Hocevar is one of the 10 fastest guys in raw pace pretty much every week, but he has got to learn how to, one, finish races, and two, stop pissing off everybody in the garage.
Yep.
I think that's pretty much how you look at it. Of you've got to tone it down, but you have to still keep your aggression. You can race aggressively but cleanly.
Yeah.
And like Ross Chastain is one of his mentors. And honestly, I really hope for the sake of the sport as a whole that he doesn't go the full Chastain route where he does tone down his aggression a little bit too much. Hocevar, when he is wheeling and dealing and dicing it up with everybody, is the best version of it. It's the fastest version of it. When he does kind of the one time all year that he decided to choke up on the wheel a little bit more and was minding his manners a little bit too much, he just wasn't as fast.
Yeah.
But you have to look at it. What are the odds that he has as many mechanical failures as he did last year? I mean, he blew. How many engines did he blow while he was in the top five? It felt
A
like three or four.
shocking. It was a shocking amount. Like it was almost like it was scripted.
He could have won at the 600, blew an
Yep. Should have
motor.
won at the 600, definitely.
Um, he
Should have won at Michigan.
Yeah, he should have won at Michigan. Ran out of fuel, which
Yep.
that's a bit of a veteran move. That's like he didn't know quite how much fuel was in his tank. He didn't know how much to save. That happens. That's going to happen to young guys.
Yeah.
But I mean, several times he was in contention right around stage two, going into stage three, and just something weird happens,
Yeah.
and you see the Chili's car in the wall or smoking, and it's just like, well, we had a good race, but I want to die, and that's exactly what Carson said over the radio like 2 or 3 times last season. So I think his car is going to be even better. I think Spire is going to improve on what they're bringing to the track each and every week. And I mean, sky's the limit for Carson. He has so much raw talent that he could any given week, except for the road courses. He does not have the road course ability of really any of the other younger kind of guys. But on the ovals, just he could be a top 10 points guy, but he's got to stop wrecking out and having these weird mechanical failures. I think the mechanical failures will be taken care of. I think that was probably the biggest emphasis for Spire over the offseason of we've got to take care of this. They have Hendrick engines, which I think are the most reliable of any engine that you're going to be seeing run. And then the other mechanical failures, I think just you'll have a few every season, and I just don't think they'll have as many. Carson, a full year under another year under his belt now. I do think he wins a race. He might win two or three. Um, so, but Floor, I think he's right down where he was around last year, where he shows glimpses. Maybe he even comes through and gets a win, but he's just not nearly consistent enough to be top 16.
Yeah. I think in the case of floor and ceiling here, the delta is quite wide.
He
I agree. He could be. I'd say top 12 would be my ceiling. Floor, he could be outside the top 25 if everything just kind of goes off a cliff. But I don't think that's going to happen. Just for one thing that we talked about before we jumped on, Chris Gabehart. Like I think that's going to make such a big difference bringing in that, like just having that voice from that team just to be able to elevate the entire organization, like in that winning mentality, and just like the way that systems need to be run to run an efficient championship contending team. Like I think he's gonna make a pretty big difference. So, and I think that the biggest impact that he might make will probably be on Hocevar. If I had to make my prediction, so I think Carson will make the playoffs. I could see him winning. I'd probably say he wins 2 races, but I think he's going to be a little bit more consistent towards the top, just because it's the point system is more conducive to him not necessarily literally trying to wreck somebody to win a race because he's so desperate to win, and just being able to be content with taking points. And I also don't think that he will go full Ross Chastain because I don't think he'd have a problem telling Papa Hendrick to shove it, unlike Chastain.
Well, the only problem with that is, I mean, the 48 spot is kind of looming, and Hocevar is the kind of heir apparent to that spot. He races for a Hendrick aligned team, and he is so incredibly fast.
I just don't
But
think he cares. I just think he's like, they're going to put me in that 48 if they want somebody that's going to win. And if they tell me to pipe it down, then I'm going to tell them to screw off.
but he is fantastic with sponsors. He announced today that he will be once again riding the Dente in 2026. Um,
Yes.
and he's got fantastic the new cowboy hat that he debuted. Just he is a potential superstar, not only in the world of NASCAR or motorsports, but just in pop culture as a whole. If he is marketed the correct way and he can find a way to actually finish off some of these races
Agreed.
in victory lane. Um, but what I think, I'm just going to present you a potential scenario. Hocevar goes winless through the first 20 races of the season.
Okay.
And I may not have the exact numbers right, but then he wins at Michigan
Okay.
and wins at Daytona at the end of the season. And suddenly he's sitting 12th in points with all the momentum in the world, with a very conducive schedule in the chase to make a run. This is a guy that one of the few guys of the mid-pack teams that absolutely I think could make a run towards the championship. It would be a really once in a lifetime um, sort of run that he'd have to make. He'd have to make a Tony Stewart style run in the chase, but I think he could get it done. Grant right now having some internet issues, so we're going to take. I'm going to fill some time for a little bit as we move on to the Toyotas. There you go. You're back now.
Dude, it just cut me out. I just was sitting there like, uh, it was waiting to reconnect. So
It's all good.
I agree with everything Cayden said, no matter what. There you go. That's my opinion.
I just said I think there is a world, like I said, where he wins 2 races right before the chase begins,
Yeah,
Michigan, Daytona,
I
and
could see it.
then with momentum, because of how scary he can be on ovals, he has the best raw speed, or at least equal raw speed as a Hamlin or Larson or Bell, um, or Blaney. I mean, he can dice it up, and if his equipment improves that much, like I think it will for Spire this year, is one of the few guys in the garage in one of these mid-pack teams that has the ability to um, really push for a title
Yeah,
if he makes the dance. But that
yeah,
is a really once in a lifetime style run for Carson here in year 3.
yeah.
McDowell is the last guy for Chevrolet that we're going to be talking about today. He's, I don't know. He could win a road course race. He could win a super speedway race. I don't think he's going to have the speed to win anywhere else. But unlike his teammate, he's going to be so consistent. He will probably have an average running or an average finish somewhere 22 ish. Um, Most likely, he's not going to have to push for a win, even though I think he'll have the speed to do it at a few places this year. But I think, unlike his floor is a lot higher than Carson and Daniels, I think his ceiling is so far below Carson's. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. Like you said, I mean, he could win. pretty much any road course, and he's always viable on the super speedways. I would never bet U.S. currency on him anywhere else if my life depended on it. Um, and I mean, I don't think he's going to make the. I don't think he'll make the chase, and there's not really much else I have to say other than that. I mean, it's pretty simple there. High floor, low ceiling kind of guy, like you said.
Just
We
a
kind of know
guy.
we know what he is.
Exactly. And he's a very likable guy. He is there to, at this point though, it does feel he is there to be the adult in the room for
Yeah,
drivers meetings to try to make Carson Hocevar the best he can be.
yeah,
And it's up to Carson to listen to him.
agreed.
So it's a real, like we said, Doc Hudson and Lightning McQueen kind of relationship.
I think McDowell would take that as the one of the highest compliments you could give him.
So, and if he wins a race, I would not be shocked. But I think this is a where we look at 6 races to go, and we look at he's definitely going to be in the chase or in the in the chase for the chase. He's
Yeah,
going to be among those guys where he may be sitting in that 16th in points. And it's just like, oh, how do you get there? And then he's just been lapped by people below him in the bubble who are just faster most weeks, but don't have as much consistency. Where
yeah,
they do finally deliver through and win a race, and that it lets them make
kind
up
of
a
fall.
lot of positions.
Yeah,
Because with a win being worth so much, it's not a guaranteed. But if you win 2 races, I think you're probably in if you're not just
what
junking it
happened for the rest of it?
most of the
Yeah,
week. So,
yeah.
and I think that's it for Spire. You want to move on to Fords or Toyotas?
We got two Toyota and a Ford, so let's go Toyota.
Okay, 2311. Wow, we've been hearing their name quite a bit over
Oh
the
yeah,
off season, and they won. They actually beat NASCAR. Everyone said they were crazy, and they probably were, but it ended up working out for them.
I agree. Boy, am I glad they won because I mean, I think just that was kind of like the first little thing that kind of set off this whole trajectory of man, like, are we back? I think we might be
I think we
back.
might be back.
Yeah, like we're back. So I'm very appreciative for Denny and MJ and all of those folks. And obviously, I feel like front row always gets left out of this, even though they were like right there.
They were
So
ride or die, but no one cared if they
no one
died.
gave them a lick of credit. No one cared because it was Michael Jordan. So uh, thank you, front row too. You're not going unseen. But let's start with Riley Herbst. He'll run probably last. Okay, next.
Yeah,
Let's
Riley
start with.
Herbst, just I appreciate what you
Thank you
bring
for
to the
keeping
team
the
and
seat
all
warm
your
for. Thank
yeah
you for keeping the seat warm for Corey Hine. Next.
yeah Riley Herbst. You bring the monster funding. That's about it for you. How about Bubba Wallace going into the season? He found a groove there. Um,
He did.
I mean, he was 2 turns away from being in the round of 8, where I think he probably had a pretty good chance of qualifying for the Final Four last year. So he wins Indianapolis. It took him a while to get going, or it took him a stretch where he was like the top first 7 races he was on it, even on the road courses, and everyone was like, "Oh, okay, so Bubba hit another groove," and then he went quiet over a big chunk of the summer, which is becoming a pattern for some of these guys.
Yeah, it really is.
And then at Indianapolis, he makes a run, and he absolutely deserved that race. He
Definitely.
outdueled the best drivers in the garage for not just one but 2 straight restarts, and won a crown jewel race, and then more than held his own in the playoffs. I think Bubba has at least hit a trajectory that we have not seen before out of him. He has made the playoffs by winning a race, not pointing his way in, and I think the way he finished the season leads me to believe that it's a thing he can continue. I think that he can come out swinging. The new partnership that he has with his crew chief that they hired last year. What is your name? I completely forget. Booty Barker. I
Yeah,
was
that's
say
it.
it's someone I. It's a fun name to say. and somehow I always forget it. I don't know how. But his partnership with Booty Barker was so unbelievably successful. And I think that this format, like you mentioned, is really conducive for not kind of checking out over the 10 to 15 races in the middle of the season.
Yeah, you just can't.
If Bubba can deliver a full season, I don't know if he has the ceiling of actually winning a championship, but he could get close. Like I really much I see him as kind of a Ryan Newman type where you look up and suddenly he's third with 2 races to go. And, can he make it happen? Who knows? Like Ryan Newman, Clint Boyer kind of thing, where he's going to run, he's going to be exciting, and he'll win a race or two. Some years he's not going to win a race, but that's okay. There's only 36, 42 win, and
Yeah.
those are not going to be evenly distributed throughout the field. So I am pretty high on Bubba this year because something that you'll see where we compared JTB to JGR last episode, and now we're going to do Legacy and 2311, is 2311 and Legacy don't have to deal with, or they're not affected at least as much as JGR by Chris Gabehart leaving,
Yeah.
which I think is going to be a very big deal for Joe Gibbs Racing. They probably are just going to have about the same amount of raw pace, and are the chips going to fall in a different way than they did last
Hmm.
year? And honestly, if they fall differently, that's probably not great for Bubba. But I mean, he put himself in position to win several times last year and only won one race. So that
Yeah.
might be a situation where, oh, sorry, I lost to Indianapolis, but I did won um, Kansas and Daytona this year.
Yeah.
And for his teammate, I mean, if the chips fall differently, Tyler Reddick could have won 3 races last year, and he won 0.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a world where Tyler Reddick goes winless this year.
I agree. On the Bubba piece, I think ever since it's almost like ever since he became a dad, he kind of like just he matured real quick, and he just kind of I don't know. He just kind of he got better. Like he's less of a hothead and that kind of stuff. Which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like I think it was good for him though because it kind of made him more. He's more level headed now, and I think he's just more calm and cool and collected. And I think that bodes well for him with his driving style. I don't think his personality being that brash kind of younger guy, it doesn't fit how he drives. He doesn't drive like a Hocevar, or he doesn't drive like a young Larson or something like that. He's a little more tame than that in a good way. Um, and I have very high expectations for Bubba. I like Bubba a lot this year. I could see him winning. I could see him winning 3 races. Honestly, I mean, I could see him winning 3 and being top 8 in points. Like you said, you look up and we're 2 races away from starting the chase, and it's like Bubba Wallace is 5th in points. It's like, how did that happen? It's because he locked in over the summer because you have to, and just kind of he dialed in and has a good crew chief. I think it's an upward trajectory for him.
I think that this is a year that's really telling for his career. If
Yeah.
he can take that next step, then it's like, okay, yeah, Bubba is a well, obviously he's the most popular NASCAR driver um, outside of the NASCAR bubble.
That's exactly what I was about to say too. Is I was like, as a NASCAR sport lover, we need him to take that step because I want him to be nationally relevant. Like that, just with the attention and stuff that he gets from the non NASCAR, like from the actual just the mainstream media and stuff like that. They love Bubba. He's their favorite driver. If he's winning races, God, it's gonna be so good for the sport.
If he can just win, I mean, look at his sponsors. I mean,
Yeah,
he's got McDonald's.
He has a B2 stealth bomber on his car. It's awesome.
Yeah, and he's got one parked in his backyard too. Apparently, like you get that. He's got a Big Mac and a B2. That's all that
Yeah,
matters. So
it doesn't get
I
more American than that.
exactly. He's very popular. I think that he's going to. I think it's very good for the sport to have drivers to have an opinion on. And think whatever you want about Bubba, and for the reasons that a lot of people hate him or dislike him. I think him winning is fantastic for the sport. And like you mentioned, with him having a kid, helped him out mentality wise. He just goes out there and he's like, well, if I don't run well, it doesn't matter. I mean, I've taken care of my family. They still got paid, and I get to go home and be with my wife and my kid, and they don't care that I
Yeah.
finished 32nd.
And I
I
get to
am
do it again next week with a clean mentality. Yeah, I agree.
exactly, and
Yeah.
he doesn't beat himself up near as much because I think that's there's always been like the last 4 to 5 years, ever since he's been at 2311, where he'll be like a 4 to 5 race stretch where he's really good. And it's like, oh, is Bubba about to take that next step? And then he wrecks out and it spirals.
Yeah.
And I think this new mentality shift for him is really, really good. And I hope to see him at the top, like where his ceiling is, which, like I said, I think is somewhere about fifth to sixth in points, um, after the chase. Like finishing fifth or sixth, winning 2 to 3 races, and really going out there and competing and being a threat more weeks than he's not.
Yeah.
The floor is he reverts back to what he was in 2024. He misses the playoffs. He makes only or misses the chase, makes only 1 to 2 runs, at a win, and things don't go his way. And for the sake of the sport, I hope that's not what we get from Bubba this year.
Yeah. I'll spare the ceiling and floor because mine's pretty similar. My expectations are him to be, I would say, in that 7 to 12 range in points, just squarely right there.
Tyler Reddick, though, I mean, ceiling, he could go win the whole thing.
But his ceiling is hoisting the trophy.
He
Definitely.
is. I mean, we were talking about, is Chastain the best driver or the sec? I said he's the second best of the mid-pack guys for raw, speed and consistency. Like if you put them in all in equal equipment, I think Chastain does it. Reddick is the only guy I think that any given week he could go out there and just have a rocket ship he's driving.
Yeah.
Um, the fact that he went winless last year is insanity.
Yeah, it's
Just
crazy.
how many things it seemed like Richmond when they were racing, both him and Bubba, some just fluky incidents. He was coming off pit road and ran into and just got wrecked. Coming off pit road, junked his car after he led over 100 laps in that race, and that was not an isolated incident for him at all.
Yeah.
He could have won Kansas last year, where Denny Hamlin, kind of dumped Bubba. He had a mechanical failure there. He had a mechanical failure, I think, at Vegas one, where he was pretty fast and didn't, um, get to go into the third stage. That luck has to change. We talked about it with Blaney, and Hocevar. Reddick is not unlike Hocevar, where he gets himself into situations that he is in dangerous situations, and that's the reason why he can wreck out sometimes. Reddick's wrecks were not his fault, just like Blaney, and that has to kind of correct itself, over another 36 race stretch. And if it doesn't, then you start to, have questions about if there's something else going on, for his bad luck.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to the top drivers in the mid tier, I think I would lean Reddick, and I think I'd lean Chastain too. And there's another guy that we'll talk about later that I think's up there too. But man, Reddick. I mean, there's not much really else to say than what you said. I mean, he's another guy that can go out there and win 3, 4 races, and I mean, just this suits him so well. The chase does. He's got an art to his craft. I think he's a very, very talented driver. I think people are going to underrate him this year because of last year. And I think that's a scary spot to be if you're underrating Tyler Reddick in a year where 2311's like they've got all this momentum. My expectations for him, his ceiling is winning the title, and I don't think there's much of a world where he misses the chase. at
I
all.
don't,
I think his ceiling may be 12th in points. Like he's
or
that
his
good.
floor is
Or his
12th in
floor
points.
his floor may be 12th in points. He's that good.
He is
And
like the
I expect
one
him to be
guy.
somewhere in between. Yeah.
He's like the one guy in these mid-pack teams that almost gets considered as a drive, like in that same tier
He's like a
of
one
just
and a
pure
half tier
consistency.
between them. Yeah.
Yeah, which a lot of that is 2311 has just improved so much. They raw speed, the JGR alliance helps. We'll see how much they're affected by the gay part, by gay part leaving for Spire. But I don't think the trickle down effect is that much. There's so much momentum for 2311 as a whole. And Reddick is almost boring to talk about because I know how good he's going to be.
Yeah.
And I don't see a world where he's not that good. Like he could
Agreed.
go out and win. He could have a Christopher Bell run like how he did last year, and go out win Atlanta, then Coda, then Phoenix,
It
and
could
just be
happen.
sitting there.
3 different styles of tracks, 3 wins.
He's
It would not be the most surprising thing I've ever seen.
he's one of the few guys in the field that genuinely can go out any given week, no matter the style of track, and win.
Yeah.
And there's maybe four other guys in the Cup Series garage I can say that about.
Yeah.
So, um, moving on to Legacy Motor Club, Eric Jones and John Hunter Nemechek, and then part-time Jimmie Johnson. It's cool that Jimmie's around. I'm not really going to talk about him here because, I mean, like, fantastic. You're running San Diego and Daytona. It would be really funny, though, if the chase gets re-announced and then Jimmie immediately goes and wins Daytona. It's like,
It's
oh,
like,
okay.
oh,
So
he's
it's
so bad.
2008 again.
Oh, that would be something. I guess you want to start with Eric Jones if we'll start there. Just because I think we kind of know who Eric Jones is. He's like some of these like a McDowell to me, in my opinion. I kind of feel like I know who he is. He's gonna probably run in the 20s in points. He's gonna lead probably a few laps at a super speedway or two. Probably not get any wins, but he's gonna just be a good solid dude in the garage.
I think that he just doesn't have the raw speed of his teammate. Granted, last year, I mean, both of these guys had a really good summer stretch,
They
which
did.
is interesting compared to. It feels like everybody else we talked to is like, well, they kind of disappeared during the summer. No, Eric Jones and John Hunter Nemechek were all over my screen when we were watching during like the TNT portion of the schedule. They both made a pretty deep run into the in-season tournament, which a lot of that is because the seating was weird, but they both had good runs. Eric, though, I mean, he's older than John Hunter. He never really accomplished that ceiling or what his expectation was when he was that young phenom. And this is like a guy I really wish there was still a Bristol Dirt on the schedule for, or we were
Yeah.
going to Eldora, because he can flat out drive a race car on the clay. And I don't know. I don't think there's definitely a world where he makes the chase. Like he wins Darlington, the spring Darlington, and he's just consistent everywhere else. He doesn't crash out. And I think as a whole, Legacy is probably going to be a lot faster than they were. They're not tied to JGR at all. They have no alliance. So this is just another year of data, another year of building out their system, figuring out what they want mechanically. And this is something that Jimmie Johnson's been very, very vocal about um, publicly that he wants is just we're going to get these two cars, they're going to be running well, and then we're going to add a third car.
Yeah.
And he seems very confident in where they're at right now. And the way they kind of closed out 2025, I see no reason to not have that confidence. I think you're going to have just some. I don't know if there's going to be any growing pains or if they're just going to kind of take the just hit the ground running, so to speak. But I don't. There's not a world where he is contending deep into the chase. Like I think if he makes the chase, that's a fantastic year for Eric Jones. But I think Um, he very like for a mid-pack team. I think he has a pretty middle of the road floor, pretty low ceiling. Like he's going to be somewhere. I don't think there's a world where he's lower than like 24th in points. I think that's about where he'll be at. as his floor, and then 16th is about the ceiling. There's not as much of a delta with him as
Yeah,
there are with other guys, including his teammate John Hunter Nemechek, who at times was flirting with speed that we've not seen out of the legacy camp.
agreed. No, I was about to say if as soon as we start talking about John Hunter Nemechek, that's a guy that I have penciled in with a pretty high ceiling. Like you say, there's a world where Eric Jones makes the playoffs. I don't know if I see or the playoffs. Excuse me, the chase. I don't know if I see that. I could see for some reason I could see it with John Hunter, just because I think he's got the actual pace to get there.
John Hunter is probably he is about the same, has about as much experience as Carson Hocevar at this point.
Yeah,
So those two, I think, are going to be a very interesting comparison to each other. I don't think Legacy is going to be quite as fast as Spire as a whole. And they are only running two cars. Spire's running three. Just not as much data, and there's not as much money at Legacy Motor Club as there is at Spire. Something that people kind of forget about Spire is they're backed by Gamebridge, and they have all of the money in the world. If they want to compete, they will be competitive. And I don't know if you can say that about Legacy, even though there is a lot of money in Legacy Motor Club. Let's not forget that. And it seems like Grant has checked out again. So I will make my point about John Hunter and let him comment on that later. But stupid Wi-Fi. But what I was saying about John Hunter is he just is a very interesting prospect. He has a lot of raw pace. He's starting to hit a point in his NASCAR
it says
career
I'm back.
where he needs to show us something, and I think he will. He has the ability to go up and contend for a win, and the problem is Legacy as a whole has just not had the equipment to show him or just see what he looks like contending with a lot of the big boys of the sport. Whereas we have seen that with Carson Hocevar. John Hunter has um, definitely the possibility of just a breakout campaign, similar to what we saw out of Chastain in, I think that was 22. Just going out there, winning three races. I don't think he's going to win three races. I just think it's a possibility. I think it's a ceiling for John Hunter. And I do think he will get a win somewhere. It just depends on if um, that is if he has the consistency in the as a whole on the season, and I don't know if he will. And I think that just comes down to what is Legacy bringing to the table this year for both of their drivers. Though I am much higher on John Hunter than I am Eric Jones.
Yeah. So for John Hunter, I think his ceiling, like I said, is a little bit higher than Eric Jones for me personally, just because I think he's got a little bit more raw pace. I'd say there's a chance that he could sneak in that 16th spot. Maybe he steals a win or two. I mean, maybe he wins the super speedway. Anybody can. Maybe he just makes some improvements and just improves his consistency and just is kind of right there. And then at the end, maybe he just kind of sneaks in with a Daytona win. Um, but his floor could be mid low 20s. So I think it's
He,
kind of
he
a variable.
we talked about like the McDowell host of our relationship, and then the Jones Nemechek relationship.
Yeah.
Um, if you had to rank those four drivers, how would you rank them?
In terms of pure speed.
In terms of how they finished, or in terms of where they finished
Oh,
points wise this season,
I'll go Hocevar. Hmm. Hmm.
it's difficult. It's a
Ho-
difficult experiment.
I'll go. I'll go. Hocevar, Nemechek, McDowell, Jones.
I'm high. I'm high on Nemechek, and he may end up making the chase when we inevitably do. Who we think makes it,
Yeah.
but give me Hocevar, McDowell, Nemechek, Jones. I think that
So just
Spire right
flipping
now.
the. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Spire is just going to be faster than Legacy. Um, and I think that Legacy has to be as fast or faster than Trackhouse in order to get one of their drivers in. So, and I don't know if that's going to happen. Granted, this is why this discussion is so interesting, is because the mid pack is wide open and any of the teams could take a really big step.
Yeah.
So definitely possible for Legacy to be that guy in the clubhouse, kind of what Spire was last year.
Yeah. A
Um,
little of a bit of a disruptor, if you will.
so, but we're gonna move on to our last team. It is that we at least are talking about in terms of mid pack. So sorry, colleague. Sorry, Hayek, or really just Ricky Stenhouse there. Same thing with Haas, Rick Ware, or front row. I just don't see any of those teams being consistent enough or consistently fast enough to make the top 16 in points.
Yeah. No offense to those guys, but I agree.
So, um, so the last team we're going to talk about is your darling RFK Racing. And I think a lot of people are expecting this team to do some special things this year. Whether that's Keselowski, Preece finally breaking through and winning a race, or Chris Buescher. I mean, he's been with technically. I mean, he won at Watkins Glen, but it feels like it's been longer than that since he's won. And
Oh, trust me,
Keselowski,
it feels like it's been longer than that.
and there's no shortage of talent with these three. And I honestly don't think there's a like we think. I think the 17 is the flagship team when it comes to that. But if you told me any of these three guys led the team this year in points, wins, raw pace, I wouldn't be all that shocked. I think they are the of any of the mid pack teams, or really any team in general, from their best driver to their worst driver is the smallest difference.
Yeah, very consolidated talent tree there. Which way are we going to start here? How do you want to approach this?
Um, I think Keselowski is probably the most interesting because we don't even know if he's going to start the season.
I think he
Um,
will. I think he's purposefully. I think he knows he's. I think he knows that he's on the road to healing at the point where like he'll be good to race at Daytona, barring any setbacks. So why risk it at a non-points race? That's kind of
that's
my mentality on that. That's what it seems. That's what it seems like to me.
and this is a much bigger deal that he has to get in the car and at least turn laps than the last format.
Yeah.
Because I mean, remember, Kyle Busch broke his leg at Daytona in the Xfinity race, I believe, actually a few years ago or a decade ago at this point, and then ended up winning the championship after missing half the season because he had to just win a race and he got a playoff waiver, finished
Yep.
top 30 in points. That's all it took. Um, Keselowski, on the other hand, I mean, if he misses two races, I don't think he has the top line speed to overcome that. And I think he can make the top 16, but I think it would be like right there at 16th. And I don't know if he has the raw speed for the last 10 weeks of the season to win a championship if he has to make up that big of a deficit.
I sort of agree. I think his ceiling's a little bit higher than that. I like maybe it's a little bit of you know coach speak, if you will, but I'm liking the things I'm hearing out of the RFK camp about these changes they're making and these setup changes and all that kind of stuff and their approach. Like it's another year with Brad as a part of the ownership group, which from what all the interviews that I heard from Chris Buescher and like some of the guys that have been there for a while, like apparently that's been a big difference maker, which I guess makes sense because that's just Brad's personality. But I think Brad's, I mean, he could be, I could see him approaching top 12, man. If he ends like if he continues like they ended, there's even as a team, but as well as he ended last year at some of those tracks, I mean, he can be consistent. It's just we kind of last year sucked in the beginning. Like he just was so bad at the beginning. It just kind of put a damper on the season. And if it puts a damper on your season in a playoff format, I mean, you cannot have that happen in this format. So I think it's going to be even more incentive to get in there, like you said, turn laps, make sure that you're healthy, and just finish well. And I mean, I could see him approaching the top 12 would be my ceiling for him. My expectations cusp of the cut line.
And just to clarify, I was saying I didn't think he had the raw speed to win, to do anything if he misses like a race or two.
Oh
Like I
yeah,
don't know if he could make that up.
you heard it here
Um,
first. You hate Brad Keselowski. That's what
I
you just
absolutely do. Definitely was not the guy I was cheering for most of his um, career. If you can't detect the sarcasm, I've loved BK for most of his career, um, even as a Penske guy. So, and obviously going out on his own has made him even more likable.
yeah.
But he has. I think he, like you hit the nail on the head. He's got to be more consistent to start the season, and then those runs, like what he did in Atlanta last year, he has to find a way to finish those. Which is Brad Keselowski. He's able to do it. He's shown us time and time again. If he has a car that is fast enough to win, he can win. I mean, that was his entire career at Penske. He won a championship by doing that, like a very close championship where he actually kind of dominated Jimmie Johnson in that 10 race chase. So we get to go back to that format. And I think I really, really like Keselowski, but I don't think I actually have him right now as the worst of the three drivers in the RFK stable, which is funny because he has his name on the building.
Yeah.
But I don't think, but like I said, I would kind of be a little bit surprised if, barring injury concerns, or just, he just doesn't respond well to the injury and he just doesn't look himself for the first few races of the season or first 10 to 12 races of the season. I mean, he's gotten older. It's not an easy recovery for a broken leg.
No.
Um, for a race car driver. We've seen how it's affected a much younger and talented driver like Chase Elliott, who I think, in terms of career, is actually a very good comparison for Brad. So it's basically it's affected Chase a lot. His injury, what he did, and it's a very similar injury um, for Brad. Just what didn't happen in the middle of the season. So we'll see how it affects him. Barring that, I think he'll be right there around 14th in points and maybe a win. And he's one of those guys, he can win anywhere except a road course.
Yep.
I don't think he has that. I don't think he has the run we saw him go on at like Watkins Glen um, back almost 15 years ago at this point. So, but he could win. Speaking though of the flagship car, so the 17, I would define it as the flagship over the 6. Um, Buescher, just insanely talented, insanely consistent. He is one of the few mid-pack guys where his floor is the chase. Like there are very, very few worlds I think where he misses out. He's not a top 16 points guy. I think something would have to go really, really wrong um, for that to happen.
Yeah. Uh, no, I agree. This format, it's like there's the guys like Chase Elliott and those guys that this format helps out, and then it's like, all right, after those guys, it's the 17. It's like this falls right in his wheelhouse in terms of just being able to protect your equipment and get out there and just basically be consistent and be in a spot to win at pretty much any track, but not risk. He's not a guy that's going to DNF 8-9 times, or
Like
that's just
he's
not
a
the guy he
guy
is.
where a bad season is him DNFing 4 times.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and vice versa. I don't know if he's going to have the raw speed to go for many wins, but under this format, if you're finishing top 15 every week, you're in. So, and then, I mean, it's anybody's guess once you go to the chase. He is a guy who could step up um, for this final 10 races and just beat everybody. He has
yeah,
potential to be the fastest driver in the garage for stretches of races. So, like I said, I think the floor for him is honestly about 14th in points, right where I would put Brad ceiling at. But I think his ceiling is probably right around 6th in points in the regular season. And then, I mean, once we reset, it's anyone's ball game. Um, So I would take, or I guess anyone's race, because we are talking about motorsports here. We know wheel, not ball.
Yeah, we know a little bit of ball, but I would say, yeah, his ceiling is, or his floor. We'll start there. His floor is 16th. I mean, it'd be extremely disappointing if he was not in the postseason uh, this year. Extremely. And I think his ceiling is, I mean, for the regular season, if we're going there, I think his regular season is, I mean, he could crack the top five. I have no doubts. I think he could. I don't know how much higher he gets past like fifth or fourth, but I mean, if he just stays consistent like he typically does, and then just has one of those 2023 summers of Chris Buescher where he rattles off 3 in a row, it's like there's no reason he can't be up there in the top five. So, and then like you said, anything can happen from there. So that's where maybe I'm a bit hopeful, but that's what I'm looking for this year out of the 17.
Okay, I don't do many hot takes. Like I really hate that style of sports talk, radio and TV, all that. I've got one here though, so I don't know if you're ready for this.
Oh boy.
So Ryan Preece, I think, has the highest ceiling of all these guys.
That is a crazy hot take.
I think
Wow.
Ryan Preece has the highest ceiling, but simultaneously the lowest floor. Um, but if we haven't done a preview for any specific race, like Bowman Gray will probably do a preview starting in about 2 weeks before that Sunday race, and then we'll do a Daytona preview pretty in depth. But I'm going to give it away here because I've already made up my mind for who wins the 500, and it is Ryan Preece. I think that we are for historic 30 for 30 levels of a love hate toxic relationship with Daytona with Ryan Preece because I think that I've already imagined it in my head. The build submarine 60 is being pushed by the 17 and somehow right across that finish line. And Ryan Preece ends the race not only on all four wheels on the ground, he gets to actually go to victory lane. And I think it's one of the more popular wins of the season in terms of everyone in the garage like that. But I this is the thing. I think Ryan Preece could absolutely rattle off 4 wins this season. And that's going to sound crazy because I mean he's never won a race. But if you look at it, I mean, look how competitive he is at all the short tracks because of just that's what he grew up. He grew up racing modifieds. Cool. New Hampshire is going to be right in his wheelhouse. Same thing with a Bristol or a Martinsville kind of style track. I think he's going to be very competitive when we go to Iowa. Just all of these sort of tracks. He improved a lot on the intermediates, and I think RFK as a
Yeah.
whole is going to have more speed than they did last year. So I think Preece just is going. I think he's better on the ovals most weeks than Buescher. Buescher is going to get him on the road courses, but Preece sneakily been better on road courses lately. So I think this is a guy whose floor is 25th in points. Just doesn't work out. Just DNFs a lot. A lot of just getting messed up, wrong place, wrong time, and everything. But I think as a ceiling, this is a guy who could be top five in points. Do I expect that to happen? No. But I do, like I said, I am picking him to win at Daytona. So I think he's going to win at least one race. Um, Once we get into the chase, I think that's a whole other deal. I don't know if he has the ability to turn it on for 10 straight races, the way we could say like a Buescher or even someone like a Hocevar could, where he could just go and take over. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think he has that raw speed. But, I mean, would it be all that shocking if I told you, hey, he won a super speedway, and then he won New Hampshire, won a Martinsville race, and then kind of fluked his way more into a win at, say, an Iowa or a Gateway. It's like there's some
Would it be
potential.
surprising?
It'd be
Yes.
surprising.
And listen, I love Ryan Preece. All right, like if there's a guy that I'm cheering for, aside from the 17, it's the 60. Like, I'm all about it. Like, if that happened, that the 17 pushed to 62 a win, that is literally the second best possible opportunity other than literally just inversing the cars. Like, that would be my ideal scenario there at Daytona. So I'd be all about it. He needs to qualify better.
Yes, I do agree with that.
He has to qualify better. I mean, he's got to match at least Buescher in
but I think you could
qualifying.
say that about all three RFK
Buescher
guys.
qualified relatively well last year across the board for the most part.
But just
Other
raw
than, but
speed
I
has to
mean,
be there for all
it
three.
does. And
Um,
I think he qualified. I think he averaged qualifying like 20th. Like, you don't have to be Chase Briscoe, but you can't start 20th every week and expect to win 4 races. I mean, I guess you could, but what, like you said last episode, if you hang out with what did you say? If
if
you're
you hang
gonna
out with
hang
the
out,
trash, you start to stink a little bit.
yeah, yeah. The further back you kind of creep back there, especially early in these races, like, I wouldn't want to be back there every race. Qualify better. I could see him winning. I'd say 2 races would be my ceiling, and I think your floor is accurate, and I think my ceiling is the same as I think my ceiling is like maybe a hair higher than Brad's.
Okay. I'm very high on Preece this year.
I
He
think
is
so.
my breakout candidate. Kind of like how everyone last year was just like, oh my goodness, have you seen Carson Hocevar and how he's running? Like, he was good, but we didn't expect this. Is I think that's how we're going to be talking about Ryan Preece
Yeah,
um, come time for the chase. So I'm very bullish on the 60. And I know it's Ryan Newman's nickname, but I absolutely love the Rocket Man 2.0.
yeah,
So
love it.
um, we're not gonna. We'll do our 16 chase drivers. I think at a different time because we've been talking about it. We have
Like an
ideas, but
hour and a half. Yeah.
yeah, but we're at an hour and a half, and being the internet connection between me and you has been kind of
Oh, it's
not
been
great this
terrible.
episode. So there's going to be a lot of editing and cuts for everybody at home. But we will probably do that. Plus, I don't even know who exactly my top 16 is.
I'm
Um,
gonna have to sketch that out on some paper. I couldn't even do it right now.
so we'll probably do that between the Bowman Gray. We'll give us both Bowman Gray to determine our top 16,
That's fair.
and probably do it between Bowman Gray and 500 week, or as all of the non-wheel knowers call it, Super Bowl week. So
Couldn't be me.
couldn't be me at all. So I think that's going to wrap it up for the Tri Oval Office. I'm Cayden Sturgis. That's great pulley internet connection going out. And we'll see probably pretty soon here because this episode should be out by about Saturday, Sunday. So probably about midweek. We'll see you again to um, to do a big preview. And I just got an ESPN notification that I'm not
Yeah,
happy
I just
about.
got it too.
We are Braves fans, and we just got the Kyle Tucker news. So,
What are you gonna do?
what you gonna do?
At
That's
least we have
why
NASCAR.
we've got NASCAR, baby. That's all that matters. I'm Caden Sturgis. That's Grant Pulley, and we'll see you next time.